Hey, cryptozens. It's 10 p.m. Pacific time. The date is April 29th, 2022. Welcome back to the Crypto Overnighter. I'm your host, Nick. The cover model for this podcast is Tex, and together we take a nightly look at the crypto, NFT, and Metaverse space and the industry that surrounds it. We're here to bring you the crypto news analysis you need to start your day. And keep in mind, nothing in this show should ever be considered financial advice. No stories tonight. Tonight we have a guest. Dr. Gordon Jones is going to be talking about identity in the Web3 space and how digital identities will be managed. There's a lot of facets to putting an identity together that need to be considered. So, we'll also talk about what the future of identity in a digital world looks like. We talk about the Metaverse and Russian oligarchs and adult beverages. But before we get into any of that, let's take a quick look at the markets. It's been a really rough day today. Lots and lots of red. So let's look at the numbers. At the time of writing, the global crypto market cap is $1.76 trillion. That's down quite a bit from the $1.82 trillion from yesterday. It's down 3.95%. The top five cryptos by market cap are Bitcoin down 3.68%, Ethereum down 4.92%, Tether, Binance Coin down 2.60%, and USDC. And now a look at the NFTs. The global NFT market cap is up over 10.44 billion. No real change from yesterday. Sales volume is down 0.25% in the last 24. According to CoinMarketCap, the top five NFT collections by sales volume are Bored Apes, followed by Mutant Apes, Moonbirds, CryptoPunks, and Clonex. Now, keep in mind, some of these collections have very volatile prices, so do your own research. And now, with no further ado, here's my interview with Dr. Jones. Okay, folks, I have Dr. Gordon Jones on the line today. Dr. Jones is an expert on the subject of digital identity. Dr. Jones, would you mind filling in the folks on how you got interested in this topic?
Oh, sure. And please call me Gordon. I use the doctor to get past the assistant whenever I need to talk to somebody important.
I'll do that, Gordon.
Okay, so good. So actually my background is in healthcare. I have my master's and doctorate in health administration. And in the early to mid 90s, I was on the health services side, but I realized what we needed to do in order to really manage healthcare as it was getting tighter from a cost standpoint was use information systems. And so in 97, that's when I actually switched over from health services to health tech. And then I was in Atlanta, and that was kind of a mecca for health tech internet-based companies. So I got mixed up in all that. Through the 90s and into the internet bubble era. As a matter of fact, my doctoral research was on healthcare's adoption of the internet and the benefits that would bring to the industry. It's still taken about 20 years from them to figure out how to make healthcare data exchange interoperable. So it's kind of it's difficult. But since then, I've been doing a bunch of different entrepreneurial things since 2000. So not just in healthcare, but got into blockchain and learned about Bitcoin in 2013, actually. And then in 2017, started designing some business models that we might be able to leverage the blockchain technology. One of them was in healthcare. And that's when I really started diving into the technology and understanding the technology and educating educating many different people around the world on this, but primarily my fellow South Carolinians. So I live in South Carolina. And that, from the governor all the way down to the individual citizens. And as a matter of fact, in 2020, that's when I started teaching a course, blockchain and information sciences, at the University of South Carolina in Columbia. And that's really where identity starts to come into play for me directly. I'm also the entrepreneur in residence for the school, and that means I help students and professors if they have ideas to bring them to market.
Oh,
and in this case, and so in my course, I actually They don't take a final exam. They write up at the beginning of the course, they identify a problem they want to solve. And then as they learn about the technology over the semester, then they apply that to their developing a solution. Mm-hmm. And then they have to submit a 1-page executive summary and then do a 5-minute pitch on their idea as their final for the course. So it's been pretty cool. And out of my 2020 course, excuse me, hopefully you can block that out. Out of my fall 2020 course, one of my students, Erica Barnett, she was looking to design a system that would help students manage their identity on campus and off campus. And the example that she used initially was, hey, when she goes down to the entertainment district and she wants to buy an adult beverage, whenever the bartender or the bouncer, whoever it is, asks for her driver's license, she is now giving him or her information that's both a safety issue and a security issue. Mm. So on the safety issue, if you think about it, what's on your driver's license? Your name, your home address, and yes, of course, your birthday. But guess what? They don't even actually need to know your birthday to prove you're over 21. They just need to know that you're over 21. Mm. And so, if the person's interested in finding out who you are and they get their home address, that's a safety issue. And then on the security side, that's 3 data points that they have towards stealing your identity. And if you swipe a credit card, then that helps them even further. Mm. So that was her idea, that she wanted to figure out how to leverage blockchain tech to solve. And then I had a problem when I was onboarding as an employee. I had not had a background check as an employee since 1997, because I hadn't been an employee since 1997. And so I had to go through this thing they call a third-party background check process to be onboarded as an employee at the university. And it took them almost 3 months. Wow. And then so I started digging in, trying to figure out, well, what's going on with this thing? And it's the quintessential middleman problem, where the employer has to hire a third party to go and verify my education, my work history, if I have a criminal history, what's my driver's status, if I have a reputation on social media, and in order to kind of know who I am before they hire me. And so my idea was, why the heck isn't my LinkedIn profile already verified? So why isn't all my education and work history on LinkedIn verified? And then why isn't my LinkedIn profile immutable, where I can't change that information? Mm-hmm. So when an employer is trying to recruit me and they go to my LinkedIn profile and they say, okay, well, I know it's true that this guy worked here and worked there, and that he graduated from this school and that school, and then he has this professional certification and all that.
Sure.
And so that was my problem. And then we ended up meshing those two together at the end of the semester, and came up with the idea for developing a digital identity wallet that was decentralized, very similar to a cryptographic wallet that you would hold your cryptocurrency in, primarily from a structural standpoint. But instead of currency, we're holding digital assets that we call verifiable credentials.
Sure.
And and so you probably have heard of verifiable credentials, and I think you even wanted to talk a little bit about what that is.
I do, sir. In fact, I would like to ask you, what's the difference when, for example, we're dealing with the sanctions, the Russian sanctions right now, and
yes,
there are individuals who have been sanctioned, but their identity can be very difficult to establish online. Could you speak to that? I mean, how would people go about establishing an identity in that way?
Well, so if we're trying to find the oligarchs and how much cryptocurrency they own from an identity standpoint, that's probably very difficult. Though the NSA and those guys might be able to figure that out.
Okay.
But so from a discovery standpoint, that's probably difficult. Now, the way that the EU and Estonia and some of these other countries around the world, they're starting to adopt the W3C standards for decentralized identity. That's being framed. It's not all finalized, but it's being framed in an open standards to where the individual can aggregate the attributes and the credentials that they own, that are make up who they are, into this format of a verifiable credential. So if you think about it, the college that you graduate would issue your college degree, which would include the attributes that make up that degree, like which classes you took and how well you did. And then that gets turned into this digital asset we call a verifiable credential. And in our case, we're leveraging Hyperledger. It doesn't hold the personal information on Hyperledger. It just provides the proof that this data is true because it's been verified. So, excuse me, I still have a frog in my throat.
No worries.
So we're following that and what we're doing, but I know there's a couple of platforms that are doing both verifiable credentials and also NFTs.
Oh, okay. I was thinking that they sounded similar.
Yeah, they're structured differently.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really created to be for different use cases. So for the most part, you would not use an NFT, which is a non-fungible token, which represents usually a digital asset like a song or a photograph or digital artwork or something creative, or even a commodity of some sort. And it's that one digital asset represents the ownership of that item.
Mm-hmm.
And the NFT is really structured to focus on a digital asset like that's creative based.
So
on the verifiable credentials are mostly representing the attributes that make up who I am from an identity standpoint.
Now, you've talked about the verifiable attributes and things like positive attributes like certifications. It sounds like things like that. How would you put something that is like a black mark against a person, like a speeding ticket? How would you associate that with the identity and what you're talking about?
So if the DMV in the state creates a policy that says, okay, we will issue your driver status as a verifiable credential to where you can prove that, okay, I'm allowed to drive this class of vehicle. And then if in their policy, they actually say, okay, well, we can also add to that credential, what your status is from a point standpoint or DUI standpoint or whatever. If you get a DUI, they would end up revoking your credential, and they would have every right to do that and design it that way as the issuer. Okay. So in other words, I can't take my state ID, scan it in, we verify it, we do what we call know your customer, like everybody else in fintech, and from that we can determine your age, but we can't take your driver status from that. We're only using it as an identification card to verify who you are.
Right.
We're not verifying your driver status, except now there are states in the United States that are starting to create digital IDs with driver status. Mm-hmm. But those are in a different structure than a verifiable credential. But that's the future that is evolving now. We're making presentations to all kinds of organizations about how to leverage this capability to remove the middleman. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, the issuer is technically in control of that particular verifiable credential.
Okay.
But if you think about like a university who grants you a degree, though, they don't need to have any policy saying they can revoke that degree.
Right.
They'll basically just create the VC and send it to your wallet, and you'll hold it and you'll be able to use it to get a job or whatever. And they won't ever really revoke it like the DMV would on driver status.
So how do you see the difference then between your digital identity and your digital reputation? Because it seems like those are similar but disconnected.
Yeah. So actually, your reputation can become one verifiable credential in your wallet. So if I'm an employer and I ask you, there's that in the case of reputation, they're basically going out to see what you're doing on Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff.
Right.
And then they're going to create some type of score. So they're going to have a bot. We're not doing it. Our company's not doing reputation, but there are companies out there that are doing reputation. So once a reputation score comes back, that could be converted into a verifiable credential that you would hold in your wallet. And whenever an employer asks for it, you'd be able to present it. Now, it would be dated. So like for example, I went through this process in 2020. If I needed to go back through it again, then we wouldn't have to do my reputation 2020 back because that's already done. We would just have to do from 2022, April 2022 to June 2020 reputation. And that's the same thing for criminal background check. So the university did a 7-year criminal background check on me before they hired me. And if I go to apply for another job, technically they only need to do from today back to June 2020 because I've already got the credential that's verified. I had no criminal record from June 2020 back.
I can see where that would be really useful for people like who have like a top secret security clearance, because it takes a god awful amount of money and time to establish one of those. So once you've established it once and it's a part of your identity that can't be altered or removed, then that should make things very, very nice. Now,
the government will have the issuing authorization to revoke that top secret security clearance. But you're absolutely right, because a top secret or a security clearance is made up of many, many attributes that we can convert into verifiable credentials and give you control over them. So whenever there's an employer that does request that information, then we're pinging the blockchain to prove that it's not been changed since the government or whoever issued the clearance issued it.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. There was another use case that I was just thinking about, and it kind of blew out of my mind. But anyway, yes. Oh, I was going to say, so in healthcare, it's the same thing with healthcare providers. When they get a contract with a insurance company, or they get on the staff at a hospital, their background check is even more intensive than the regular employee, because they have to verify all of their credentials to be able to provide the specific services that they do in their specialty. And it takes a long time to actually go through that process. And then every single insurance company has their own way they want to do it, and every single hospital has their own way to do it. So it's very complex for a healthcare provider to do that, especially if you're like a travel nurse or doctor, because every time you travel to a new place, you have to do all that again. And if we could convert that, all of that is into verifiable credentials that the doctor or the nurse would hold in their own personal wallet. So when they get to the next station, they just present those credentials. And if there's anything that needs updating, we're just spending the time and the money to update it. We're not having to do the whole thing all over again.
So what is it about the digital identity space that you see coming in the future? What can we expect to see in the next, 2 to 5 years?
Well, so it's the industry is just emerging on verifiable credentials. So in the NFT space, which is not really wrapped around identity, it's around these digital assets. But it's got a lot more traction because they're tradable and people are interested in them. So as more and more governments come on board, so the European Union is looking at these open standards, the Canadian provinces as individuals are already starting to adopt these verifiable credential models. South Korea and other countries around the world are doing the same thing. We also have a group called the Velocity Network Foundation. And it's a consortium of the world's largest employers who are coming to adopt verifiable credentials for education and work history primarily in the beginning, so that they can both issue so whenever you have to have a background check, they call former employers to verify that you actually work there. Well, the employers don't like doing that. So what they want to do is be able to issue, when you leave that job, is you'll get issued a verifiable credential that tells all the jobs that you had and all the projects that you likely worked on that illustrated the level of skill set that you had in a particular work area. So that when you go to the next employer, you actually have way more detail that you can present to your next employer from your former employer than they can release or want to release over a telephone call.
And the government already has set up an identification system for professions. It's like a 6-digit code that you can use to identify and I've forgotten the name of that, but that would seem like it would be exactly the index that you would use for your database for the verifiable assets.
That's a part of it, yes. But we're actually digging down even deeper than what that code is, because the code doesn't get into details and it doesn't really verify that you have that skill set. You just said, listen, this is my code because this is what I say I did. But yes, you're right that when we start to verify these things and then turn them into immutable records, then that starts to mean much more, especially if we can break down the attributes to your specific skill sets. And then here's the longer term vision. So that's going to happen over the next 5 years. What's going to happen in the future is two things. One is you're going to use your digital wallet for everything. You're not going to have a physical wallet anymore. All your credit cards are going to be converted into digital processes. You're going to be able to hold your cryptocurrency in your digital wallet, and then all these verifiable credentials that say who you are. So you'll be in absolute control over your digital assets. So that is coming. But what I see in the big future is, especially under W3, so the World Wide Web 3, the Web 3, evolving in what a lot of people call the future of the Metaverse, is that now we're starting to buy stuff and get NFTs through these Metaverse. And we're going to want to be able to carry them around with us as we go to the different environments in this Metaverse, which really nobody knows what it's going to be looking like.
Right.
But so what I call that is my personal wallet is going to be much, much broader than that. I'll be able to hold my NFTs. I'll be able to hold my weapons that I got from one of these games, or the magic pellets or whatever it is, and I can hold them in my digital wallet, and I call that the Indieverse. So it's the individual's universe.
Sure.
Where I can take myself out into the Metaverse, and then I can even change my avatars on the fly as I wish to interact with these different environments. I'll still be verified as a human being and not a bot. But if I want to change my persona to go into a different environment, then I can do that. And it's still, and the ecosystem still trusts that, yes, I'm a human, not a bot or a synth.
Well, Dr.
And I see that's the future.
I want to thank you so much for stopping by. I
Sure.
think it's a fascinating subject, and you are welcome to come by any other time if you want to talk about this or if you just want to shoot the breeze.
Oh, great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you much. And that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Okay, seriously, how cool was that? Especially towards the end where we're talking about like the Metaverse wallet and how things are going to end up being linked together. So you'll have your wallet with your digital identity from the government, and it's going to be in the same wallet as the weapons that you pick up in World of Warcraft, whatever replaces that as an NFT. How cool is that going to be? But this really highlights the issue, right? Because our identities are very important. Having a durable, verifiable, trustworthy source to prove identity is going to be challenging in a trustless world. If you enjoyed tonight's show, please like, comment, and subscribe. Give us a review. Do you have questions or comments? Reach out and let us know. The address is nick@cryptoovernighter.com. That's nick@cryptoovernighter.com. And check out my other podcast, Crypto in 5 Minutes. We have 40 educational podcasts, 5 minutes to explain one concept in crypto. And as always, may peace reign.